Hello and welcome back to A Splashy Paint, where it's time for a quick and easy bite-sized project designed to encourage you to try something new. Today we welcome back popular artist Warren Sealey, who is going to show us how tonking can help solve and correct mistakes made in oils.
Right, hello. Today I want to show you a little technique called tonking. This is something you can do if you're the sort of painter who paints quite heavily. Sometimes the paint can get so heavy you can't really work into it. And if you have a look at this, I've got oil paint down here, and it's just so thick and it's buttery, and I really need to get rid of some of that paint. This is also useful if you make a real clanger of a mistake as well, and you need to get it off. So the paint is now very thick, a bit unworkable. So what I do is this thing called tonking, named after Professor Tonk, and we put this. It's a bit like blotting, really. And we put some newspaper or tissue paper, whatever you've got, and we put it over the area, hold it down, and just rub it. And this takes off the excess paint. What you don't want to do is hold it down and then rub it around, because that will just cause chaos. So we just hold it on, rub it back, and then we lift it off, and then we have, the area is fairly undisturbed, really. We just have a much thinner workable layer now, and I can work straight back into this, whereas before I would have just been making a complete mess. So now I can just happily paint back into that. It's a really useful technique, especially if you paint quite heavily, or like I said, if you've made a real clanger. It's a useful thing. So that's something you can try next time you're getting a bit too thick on your board. That's tonking.
Thanks for that demonstration, Warren. It's a great technique to have up your sleeve, and it can be repeated many, many times. And it's particularly useful for erasing mistakes made during the course of completing an oil painting. Now it's time to rejoin Jeremy Ford as he picks up his pastels and puts the final finishing touches to today's Try Your Hand At project. Enjoy.
So here we are back in the summer meadow. I've got the base colours down now. I'm going to put in a few poppies now, starting with this lovely bright red in the distance. Not pressing too hard, but if you can imagine in the distance these bands of poppies, thousands and thousands of them, appear to form strips or bands of colour. And as we come into the foreground, they become a little bit more individual. So around about the middle here, I'll start sort of dotting a bit more. And in the immediate foreground, I'll press a bit harder to get some bigger shapes. So some of this won't necessarily need blending in either. Further away, I'd like it to look a little bit lighter. Just want to break up this hedge a bit there too. And other colours as well, can work in a little bit of green. If anything just gets a little bit too samey. As well as the poppies, you can imagine there'd be other flowers as well, lots of meadow flowers, so there could be whites and pale blues and greys, yellows, all sorts. So bits of each of those colours throughout. And there's going to be a path coming into the foreground. So from that dip here, mid to dark grey. I don't want to press too hard, I don't want it to stand out too much. Very, very lightly, this pathway will just zigzag into the foreground here. Getting a little bit bigger as we come into the foreground. Just work that in a little bit with my finger. A few more poppies, I think. And on the right as well. bigger shapes. They're just little blobs really, the poppies. Now it's very easy when you're doing something that's very repetitive, like all this dotting, to do it without really thinking about it. So just do a little bit, and then when you get fed up, move on to something else. You can always come back to that if need be. Now I'll use sort of a straw colour and just touch that on in that direction, and maybe a lighter one as well. This is like a yellow or yellow ochre colour. Just touch that on to give the impression of long stems, long grasses, pale green as well. And it's probably easier to do this than try and draw every single stem, because you might not be able to get it quite fine enough using the tip of the pastel. These are quite thick, so you can get some reasonably thin ones, but it's maybe just a little bit easier just to put the pastel on like that, and you get the more sort of natural looking shape or pattern. Now, as well as that, we want some more yellow flowers in the distance, or the middle distance. Maybe just soften those a little bit. Can get a bit noisy, this. And as well as that, paler yellow. There's not much difference between those yellows actually. Let's try some pale blue flowers. Sort of a blue haze, and white, more white ones. Takes a bit of a while to build this up. Imagine daisies and all sorts of things here. I'm not really bothered about what all these flowers are, it's just making a nice impression. And the contrast of the dark background, I think, helps make these light flowers stand out. So smaller dots in the distance, bigger shapes in the foreground. Perhaps break some of that up with some more green. More of the same. I think we need some more poppies as well. Some orange flowers as well. Some of the angles as well they're not just dots, they're sort of elongated dots, and they're angling down a little bit on one side and perhaps angling down a bit on the other. Of black. And some more grasses coming in at the side. press a bit harder. And also some blue flowers and bigger poppies. And a few white ones should really stand out nicely. And I think that's looking nice and summery, and that would be a good time to stop. So I hope you've enjoyed the summer meadow, and let's hopefully see some weather just like that.
Well folks, I hope that today's project has inspired you to try using pastels and have a go at creating your own stunning landscapes, whatever your artistic ability. And remember, we're always interested in seeing and hearing how you get on. Simply visit the SAA website for details of how you can interact with one of the largest online art communities. Now it's time for our final break, but join us in part 4 when we delve into the SAA bookshelf with our regular bookworm Henry Malt, and versatile SAA professional artist David Hyde reveals a few of his favourite things. And I'll be helping solve a few of your artistic dilemmas. See you soon.